A man just wanted a sip of water during his flight, but suddenly noticed his fingernails rapidly turning black. As a doctor, he instantly realized this was a sign of severe oxygen deprivation in his heart and lungs. Before he could even think of a solution, the bottle in his hand started to twist and deform, and the cup of water on the table began to shake violently. The flight attendant also noticed something was off. She quickly sat down, fastened her seatbelt, and urged the passengers to do the same. Little did they know, it was already too late. In the next second, the plane entered a turbulent layer of air. The water in the cup suddenly floated up, and passengers who hadn't buckled up in time were sucked into the air due to the loss of pressure. In an instant, the entire cabin started shaking intensely. Passengers were shocked by the sight and could only grip the armrests tightly, silently praying for their safety. The captain, realizing the crisis, quickly put on his oxygen mask. The cabin's oxygen masks also dropped due to the loss of pressure. Seeing this, the passengers hurriedly put on the masks to breathe. However, Jack's wife fell unconscious from lack of oxygen before she could use the mask. Unbeknownst to everyone, a girl was using the restroom when the severe turbulence hit, making it impossible for her to open the door. She eventually fainted on the floor, deprived of oxygen. To save his wife, Jack shakily made his way to the flight attendant's area and found an emergency oxygen bottle. He quickly put it on his wife, saving her from the brink of death. Surprisingly, after a period of intense shaking, the cabin pressure miraculously returned to normal. Flight 7500 had finally made it through the ordeal. To reassure the passengers, the captain immediately made an announcement. He explained that the plane had encountered a storm while crossing an air current, damaging a seal and causing issues with the cabin pressure. However, they had already taken emergency measures and would lower the altitude to stabilize the pressure, so the passengers need not worry too much. Only then did the passengers finally breathe a sigh of relief. Soon, a flight attendant discovered the girl who had fainted in the restroom earlier. She quickly brought an emergency oxygen mask and put it on the girl, who miraculously regained consciousness. Just when everyone thought the nightmare was over, many passengers began experiencing strange occurrences. It started with a middle-aged man who suddenly felt short of breath. Frightened, the flight attendant Lisa quickly made an announcement, asking if there were any doctors on board who could help. Jack rushed over as soon as he heard the announcement. However, the man's condition rapidly deteriorated. He kept clawing at his mouth with his fingers. Before anyone could figure out what he was trying to do, a gush of blood sprayed from his mouth. Then, he started convulsing like a zombie, but soon became motionless. When they laid him on the floor, Jack discovered that the man's heart had stopped beating, with a passenger mysteriously dying on the plane. The captain immediately reported the incident to the airport's control tower, asking them to verify the deceased passenger's information, since they were still an hour away from their destination. The crew had no choice but to move the body to the business class section on the second floor, covering it with a blanket. Not long after, a man sneaked up to the second floor. He had noticed the deceased was wearing an extremely valuable gold watch when the crew was moving the body. He wanted to secretly take the watch. After snatching the gold watch, instead of leaving immediately, he took out his phone and started recording. In the video, he kept showing off and even began insulting the deceased. The next second, the corpse turned its head and stood up, causing the man to let out a piercing scream. At the same time, the flight attendants in the cabin also encountered a bizarre situation. They noticed a fighter jet appearing outside the window. In the cockpit, the signal was becoming increasingly erratic, making it impossible to contact the control tower on the ground. Even more terrifying, when the flight attendant walked towards the business class section on the second floor again, she discovered that the